Aspire for Her. I head talent acquisition and I head talent acquisition and education initiatives for Aspire for Her. We have two very resounding leaders with us today, Nipa and Naveeta, who are going to walk all of us through in terms of how to build a career in the banking space. I'm sure all of you are very excited. I am. But before we get to Nipa and Naveeta, I would like to take a couple of minutes talking about Aspire for Her in terms of what we do, how can you get benefited by various initiatives that we keep carrying out and learn from us from time to time. So let me just share my screen and please let me know if you guys are able to see my screen. Is it visible? Farisha, if you can give me a heads up.
Yes, Bhavesh. If you want, you can
Lovely,
now.
lovely. So yes, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you will know, but for those who do not know, we are almost getting to the fourth year of our existence. We started in on 8th of March, Women's Day 2020. And in the last 3.5, almost about 4 years, I think we've achieved a lot thanks to the support coming from all our mentors, all our supporters, all our allies, and we are kind of on track to get to our vision, which is to get 1 million women in the workforce by 2025. How we do that? We do that very simply by a model that obviously has been inspired by a very famous model, but we have given it a twist of our own. So we call it E cube is equal to MC cube, where E stands for employment, entrepreneurship, and education. So our purpose, our drive is to ensure that every woman in the country is either in employment, and how we do it is through forward-looking organizations that work with us, who are looking for hiring more and more women to improve their diversity in with respect to either women from colleges or women who are looking at a career switch. Or in fact, we have a lot of organizations that also partner with us to look at women who have taken a career break and are now looking at a second innings for themselves. We have a large cohort, a community of about 23,500 plus of women entrepreneurs across the country, where again, lots of initiatives, lots of courses, lots of learning sessions that we keep doing with them to ensure that they keep growing their business. And not just in India, we are now, in fact, started launching a project wherein they can also do cross-border transactions. Education happens to be our third E, wherein we, in the last 6 months only, we have trained at least about 150,000 plus women and male students as well in several courses which could be technically uh, required in the world of employment. So we've done courses in AI, in ML, in cybersecurity, in cloud essentials. We've also done a lot of courses on soft skilling. We are now, in fact, doing several courses in a day where we are covering LinkedIn sessions to ensure that all the students across the country understand the importance of LinkedIn and also build a professional career out of that. Now, our uh, C's that the C3 that we're talking about largely are courses, the several courses that I've already spoken to you about. Career previews, what we're doing right now is one of a career preview wherein we are taking all of you to understand how can you nurture yourself to become a professional banker? How can you learn from the experts? And we have got two of the best that you can get in the industry talking to you about how to build a career in the banking space, right? And we do it through communities. This particular community is obviously women in banking. You could see that right in our background. We have approximately about 2,500 is what I'm told. In fact, sorry, my bad, 4,300 community members that we already have in the banking space, and we expect to have more and more of you coming over and joining this community to have it full-fledgedly working. Now, some of the communities that we are already part of, 18 communities in total. In fact, we are having conversations with a lot of other clients to get more and more communities. I would not be able to talk about one particular community that we're going to launch. It's not formally signed yet, but you will see several communities coming into picture in times to come. And a quick glance of the corporate partners that we work with. If you glance through this, you will get to know that many of the Fortune 500 clients are already with us. They are very forward looking, and we are thankful to them. And we also ensure that we keep getting more and more opportunities to each one of you to get benefited, and thereby also walking towards our mission, which is completely aligned with what we are doing. So at this point in time, in 3.5 years, we have been able to get 3,70,000 women supporters, allies, mentors. I've already told you about 18 communities, and we'd like to have some of you who are not on our community to kind of ensure that you follow us on LinkedIn, you join our community if you are not a part of it, and take benefit from everything that we do. So with that, I will stop sharing. And now is the time when I'm going to introduce Nipa to you so that Nipa takes over and actually brings in her perspective and talks to Naveeta as well to help you understand how can you build a career in banking. I am looking forward to it. I'm sure all of you are as well. So quick introduction about Nipa. She's been a banker for over 22 years and has done phenomenally well in whatever she's done. So, majority of her career has been with the big banks like Citi, New York. She's also had brief stints at Citi Singapore and Citi India. Her last role was that of a senior director, chief of staff for control organization with Wells Fargo, and she played this role across India and Philippines. Prior to this, she was the compliance lead and the digital program lead at Credit Suisse. Nipa has headed several functions, including product management in payments, risk and control, chief data office, finance, and information security. She's done her MBA, her MCA from BIT Mesra, and also did her MBA from the University of Maryland, US. I am excited, Nipa. Over to you, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Bhavesh, and welcome everybody. This is the first session we are having this year, so really excited. And we would be conducting a couple of polls to just get a pulse of how you're feeling and what some feedback from you, and as well as we'll have some Q&A sessions. But just to add on to what Bhavesh talked about, Aspire for Her. The women in banking, obviously, the name specifies that we will be talking about banks and careers in banks, and it is a very fulfilling career. As we have more and more sessions, we'll bring in more illustrious speakers, some more training sessions, panel discussions, and as well as what we have towards the end of the session, open roles that we currently are working within Aspire. So I would hope that this session is fulfilling and you would continue the journey with Aspire for Her. And with that, I am going to introduce our speaker for today, Naveeta Aggarwal. Hi, Naveeta. She is really, one of the most illustrious bankers, with the international bank as well as a domestic bank perspective, which is quite unique. She has over 35 years of experience. Started her career in banking just out of her business schools. She did her MBA from IIM and then joined Exim Bank in project finance. That was early 80s. After 11 long years, she joined IndusInd Bank and within the corporate banking division. She was covering some of the key clients within corporate banking, and then she switched over to Deutsche Bank again around middle of 2000, around 2006. And that was one of the very early stages when the offshoring had just started, and one of the critical functions that wasn't there in India at that time was credit risk and risk rating transition. So she was heading this project in Deutsche Bank, and then across the years led many leadership functions within Deutsche before she retired middle of last year as a managing director. And at that time as well, she was heading a global team sitting in India across credit risk organization, covering risk management, re-engineering, and some of transformational projects. So with that, I'm really excited to hear Naveeta's perspectives of how her banking career had shaped up, and some advices on how to shape up our, any of ours banking career. Even with my experience, I would always love to hear from her. And then we will, as I mentioned, we'll have some time for question and answer. So with that, I'll begin the session.
Thank you, Nipa.
And thanks for having me for today's session. I'm so proud to be associated with Aspire for her. And good evening, everyone. Hope we have a good session, something which is informative and valuable to all of you.
Thanks, Naveeta. Yeah, we are really excited. So the first, I think, the initial question that obviously comes up that how did you end up being a banker? As you joined the school, did you always think of becoming a banker, or did you mold your career, or this just happened by chance? So if you could shed some light on that, and then how the different roles happened, so that we could understand your journey.
Sure, Nipa, thanks. So interesting. I mean, it wasn't a very grand plan to get into banking and build a career in banking. I would say it just happened. In fact, a lot of things in my life just happened, and nothing has been planned as such. So through campus placement, I got two job offers, both in the in the FI space, and I picked up Exim Bank because it was a nascent institution just set up in 1983, and thought it would be an interesting journey because it was a specialized institution, the first of its kind. And I was there with Exim for almost 11 years, as you highlighted. And believe me, that set me for my career in banking simply because that's an amazing institution and we had a great journey. I mean, they were pioneers in terms of the way the organization was structured, the way they had their offices laid out, very unlike a bank you would think about in the 1980s. It was pretty much competitive to any MNC organization at that point in time. So, yeah, so I think Exim Bank set the stage for a career in banking, and there has been no looking back since then.
So thanks for that. And yeah, as you mentioned, and the same happened with me. I was actually in technology, but my first client was a bank. And when I started, understanding more and more bank processes, I decided this is where I want to be, and that is very something I wanted to highlight. Once you get into banking, it's kind of difficult to do something else because it's quite addictive. So I'm sure there are people who have been in banks before, but who are considering a career. Just to highlight, that's something really rewarding, and then you get opportunities, as Naveeta also highlighted. So I also, because you've seen the whole landscape, it started with Exim, then IndusInd, to illustrious banks within India, and then you move to a global bank. So how have you seen the overall banking landscape evolved over the years, and currently, how would you say the current present situation is?
Even a lot has changed in terms of the banking sector, if you think about it. You look at banking sector and the financial services, what we call today as BFSI space. It's hugely diverse and it's currently exploding, if you think about it. Today, we have 136 scheduled commercial banks in India, which includes your public sector banks, your private sector banks, your small banks which are coming in, small finance banks. It includes your payment banks, and it includes your regional rural banks. In addition, then you have your cooperative banks, you have specialized banks like Exim and IDBI and things like that. And on top of everything, then you have your non-banking finance companies, tons of now non-banking finance companies doing a phenomenal job with the Indian economy. Additionally, what has been a game changer has been the global capability centers. So the large MNC banks globally have set up these capability centers in India. This is really the consequence of the large qualified talent pool that we have in India and the government support that has been given to this initiative. And today, if you think about it, we have about 175 GCCs just in the BFSI space, and they employ about 2 lakh professionals. So it's not a small amount that we're talking about. And additionally, if you think about the fintech space, so that's the buzzword, and that's India is the fastest growing market in the fintech space. And the entire ecosystem of fintech in India I mean, it spans across all kinds of banking services, whether you think about stockbroking, you think about payments, you think about neo banking, anything you think about it, and we have it. So overall, I mean, banking sector or the financial services sector today provides such a huge opportunity, both in terms of employment and growth to the Indian youth, that I think is unmatched.
Yeah, I think that's the whole evolution. I think it started with the initial domestic banks, the foreign banks coming in, setting up the GCCs, and now I think with the technology and the banks merging into technologies, I think they're now it is the buzzword. So I think very easy to move between banks and fintechs. We have seen a lot of banking
Yes.
leaders going and setting up their own fintech. So I think that's and all. I've always also seen when I'm talking to any of the fintechs or I'm seeing somebody evaluating a fintech, they would ask the founder if they have that banking experience. So
Yes.
that's very critical. So get that foundation in banking. I mean, you would know the technology, but if you haven't got your hands dirty, some of the key banking roles, it might get a little difficult to get in somebody to buy into your fintech idea. So I think again that's one of the biggest point because it is still evolving and it's still relevant.
Right.
Yeah. So, and in the meantime, please feel free to type in your questions in the chats or Q&A, any of the options. Somebody would be collating all the questions because it's a webinar. We won't be able to take direct questions, but we will be compiling all the questions, and towards the end of the sessions, we'll be, answering. We'll try to answer the questions to the best of our abilities. Just wanted to mention that.
And Nipa, one thing, can we launch the first poll?
Sure. We could start launch. Yeah, we could launch the first poll now before we move on. So this is the poll. Please, answer your poll so that we could know a little bit of your background, and what is it that you're looking for. And we would have a second poll towards the end of the session. We'll give you some time to answer. Please scroll down and then make sure you answer all the questions. Parisha, this is three questions, right, in the first poll?
Yes, Nipa. Very good.
Yeah, so you have to scroll down for the third question.
Okay, can we end the poll? 60% are participated.
Okay. Okay, great. I can see that we have people who have already have been working in a bank or in a different organization and looking to return. Great. As we said, just keep typing your specific questions so that we could answer those as well. I can see that skills required is one of the questions that got a higher percentage, and I hope some of the questions that we'll be covering between me and Naveeta will answer these questions as well. So moving on, what are the different excuse me. So, what are the different avenues for banks to typically hire for experienced as well as freshers?
Sure, Nipa. So, if you think about it, banks or organizations typically hire freshers for very specific roles, so whether that's branch banking or branch ops, or it's marketing and sales, or it's the back office where you have the back office operations or customer care. For those kind of functions, typically the banking organization would hire freshers. For more complex roles, so whether you're talking about corporate banking, investment banking, or you're talking about risk management, finance, for all these kind of functions, they would typically opt for postgraduates. So whether it's a CA or an MBA, or even today now, some of the newer qualifications that are coming in vogue is the CFA and the FRM, and for even quant qualifications today, if you think about it, mathematics, statistics, engineering, these are the kind of backgrounds that are very much required in the banking organizations and are in demand. For senior roles, they also look for prior experience. They'll also look for leadership skills. Now, if you think about the public sector banks, Institute of Banking Personnel Selection is the institution that conducts the examination for probationary officers for 11 public sector organizations. And they do the entry level hiring there through the selection process. It's a pretty, I would say, intense process. The whole process kind of culminates over 1 year period. SBI runs its own PO program, so they do their own selection. For private sector banks, it's a little different. So all private sector banks have their own in-house selection hiring teams, the HR departments. And they typically would do their own hiring drives. They would go to campuses to recruit juniors. And they would also, they actually post all their open positions on their career portals, on their websites. And most banks have a very strong employee referral program. So it's very important, I mean, if you know somebody in an organization and you are interested in joining that organization, it's a good idea to pass on your CV, get it referred internally, because these kind of referrals are viewed very seriously by the HR department, just that it doesn't fall into a database, but is actually looked into by the organization.
Thanks for that. Um, so I think that kind of gave an overview of how do we, how typically the hiring is conducted in a bank, across the levels. I mean, for other sessions, we would cover some of these areas more in depth. But then moving on to, once hired, or, when you're making a choice about, any department, is there any particular areas that are more suited for women in a banking? I know banking is such a area that, where literally women can do any of the roles as in any other fields, but any specific areas that you have seen, where women kind of are maybe not there yet, but there is an immense potential for women to apply.
Honestly, Nipa, as you just said yourself, that I don't see any role in banking which cannot be done by a woman. I mean, traditionally, you had certain functions like investment banking, you had risk management, you have trader desks, which were considered very sacrosanct and kind of, male bastions. But believe me, over the years, all these myths have been busted. You have women in all these departments and doing a phenomenal job. And I mean, think about it. Tajani Vakil was the CEO or the chairperson of Exim Bank way back in 1993. She was the first woman who headed a large banking organization. Post that, we've had so many more examples, whether you think of Arundhati Bhattacharya, you think of Kalpana Morparia, you think of Naina Lal Kidwai or Shikha Sharma today. So many women have kind of, they're leading banks. I mean, so functions, I think banks, women can be part of any function. I've myself been doing credit risk management for majority of my career. And believe me, I've loved every moment of my stint doing credit risk management, although it's been a challenging career, but that's the fun part of it, I would say.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. I mean, I was in different areas before, but then I moved on to risk management. That's one of the areas, risk management audit. We traditionally thought, because these are some of the roles where you need to be a little assertive, because you are managing the bank's risk, so you have to a lot of areas you have to say no to a lot of business propositions. So I have heard that quite a while back, it wasn't something people would typically see women. But now, as you see, Naveeta had an illustrious career. I loved my career. So I think now, really, in the true sense, different options in banks are open, especially in areas which used to be in each, a while back mostly with mostly having men as leaders. Those are also seeing a lot of women leading the banks, and all the way up to the CEO level. So, yeah. Thanks for that. And this will actually bring to our last but very important question, is about hiring. So when you're hiring, no, there would be skills, there will be competencies, there would be a lot of things mentioned in the JD, on the job description of what asking for that. But beyond this, words and hard skills, what is it that you would be looking for in a candidate when you are hiring? Maybe a fresher, maybe somebody who's returning, maybe a little more experience. So if you could just say from your experience and your point of view.
Sure. So from my perspective, other than your qualification and experience, I think what's the most important factor I've always looked into was the attitude the candidate brought to the table. Honestly, your attitude, your soft skills go a very long way in terms of getting selected as well as your success in the organization. So you'll find a lot of interview questions which are focused on a candidate's commitment levels, their ownership, their ability to work in teams, to manage teams, problem solving, to manage stakeholders. So I think, if you kind of think about an interview, it's like a 50-50 balance. 50% would probably be your technical skill sets, whereas the balance 50% would be more on the soft skills side to see how you fare there.
Absolutely, and that's also something we wanted to bring out, because obviously we will be covering some of the training aspects, and I see a few questions coming up on that as well. Upskilling, obviously, that's very required. That's your almost like an entry pass. They really would need some of this to get to that interview. But once you are in that interview, just remember it's your mindset, your attitude, proactivity. That's very important in a bank. Thinking on your feet, there would be some kind of a crisis happening at any point of time. So, and a lot of positivity. Just I can do attitude that will get you to the final job. So, with that, I will end this particular fireside session. Thanks, Naveeta, but she will be sticking around to answer some of the questions. But thank you so much. I hope the session was insightful for all of you. Felicia, if you could just bring up the slide, just wanted to quickly highlight how a banking structure works in case people have not been in a bank. So basically, what wanted to mention that typically a bank is organized, and this is very broad for a retail bank, which is for catering to clients like you and me. This is the kind of bank we look at on a day-to-day basis, who would be where we would have our savings account covering our loans, any other investments that we are looking for. So that's on the retail banking side. Then we have the corporate banks, which does the similar functions, but for big corporate clients. So the loan amount, the investment amount, any kind of money movement transactions, those are obviously big sum amounts. So that's a very critical part of any banking function also, and quite a money-making portion. And me and Naveeta both come from that area of the bank. Third is the investment bank. That would be more all on the financing needs for mostly big corporates. So initial public offerings, trading, investments, asset management. So that's that function, which again, they work very closely with the corporate banking function. But those are very specialized function with very specific skills required. Retail and corporate banking function, some of the roles that are what we could say, even if you don't have core banking skills, you might have some, take a couple of banking courses, and you would be able to at least have the first round of interview and get considered. So that's where it is quite useful. Then we wanted to talk within a banking function. We have the front office, which is your client facing. So anything that is working with the clients directly, your sales or business development, any that is just direct selling, any product, account management that's working with the client throughout the and this is across retail and corporate banks. So working with the clients throughout the life term and the life journey, and the customer service team. So that's your front office. There is the back office. There are sometimes middle offices, but I'm kind of clubbing them, which is like the backbone of the bank, where all the processing, all the due diligence, all core operations that happens, mostly behind the scene, but very lucrative area. A lot of hiring takes place in that area. And then we have what we call enterprise support, which support both the front office and the back office. And there we have very critical functions. Number one being technology, information security, risk management, compliance, legal, HR, finance, and now what is coming very critical is a chief data office, because that's a new function that's being formed across every bank. And so, but I just wanted to highlight this and bring out this slide, because even if you don't necessarily have a core banking experience, if you have, suppose, customer relationship experience across another industry, so some of the front office roles might be suitable, and banks will consider. If you have operational, anything related to very detailed data accounting, reconciliation processes, even from technology, I've seen a lot of folks moving on to operations. So those kind of roles are there. And enterprise support, again, technology it can be across all the industries. So from any other technology organizations, you can join a banking technology organization. Just you need to know the basics of banking. Risk management, again, is specialized, but there would be opportunities. Legal compliance, these are more regulatory. So if you're aware of the legal or compliance landscape in an industry, that is useful. And finance, so if you have done your CA or CPA in a finance role, that kind of works in an audit or a finance role in a bank as well. HR also across, that it's not only banking specific. Data office, Naveeta had mentioned initially, we're looking a lot of people having very deep knowledge in statistics, data, economics. So those people who have those knowledge or degrees in those, they have a very lucrative option within a bank in the data office function. So it is, it needn't be that you just have to be in a bank to start off with. You can be in another industry. You have to do a couple of upgraded courses, and if there are relevant options, you can always switch. So with that, we'll hand it over back to Bhavesh for for a couple of few roles that are currently Bhavesh is working on with AFH. As more and more come up, we will bring that to you in future sessions.
Thank you, Nipa, and thank you, Naveeta. I think it was wonderful listening to two bankers who spent a lot of years in the industry to talk about how it means and what it means to be in the banking space. So I'm sure a lot of our folks from audience are also interested in either restarting the career. And I saw a lot of I saw the poll question, which actually meant that a lot of you who's listening to us is actually looking at returning back to work. So now, specifically talking about the roles that we are working on right now, right? And I told you that I had talent acquisition. So my team is working with several clients, and Madhura, who's our founder, happens to be from the banking space. She's an ex-banker as well. So thanks to her connections, we are fortunate to have a lot of BFSI clients who work with us from time to time. I saw a lot of questions on the chat window talking about women returnees. So while we do not have any roles at this point in time for women returnees, but I can assure you that there are 3 or 4 conversations that are going on, which are at the last stage. So we are sure that in about 2 to 3 weeks, we should be able to host all of those opportunities to you for you to apply. Having said that, for some of the others who are looking to maybe take a switch in the career, we are working with a little over 30 plus roles in the banking space. I'll maybe give you a quick view of some of the roles. And in case you happen to be somebody who fits that opportunity, please log into our platform. Uh, Through Aspire for Her, we have also a job platform that will showcase all these opportunities. You can look at the job descriptions and accordingly apply. The first role that I can talk about is a PRB specialist. PRB stands for Performance, Rewards, and Benefits. This is a role which is with Standard Chartered and it's based out of Mumbai. So we are looking for somebody who comes with a significant amount of experience in the compensation benefits part. And if you happen to be either if you happen to have that experience or if you know somebody who has the experience, please ask them to log into our portal and apply. Apart from that, there are several roles. So we're looking for branch managers for Equita Small Finance Bank in Delhi, in Chennai, in Hyderabad. We're looking for territory sales managers in cities like Coimbatore, Hyderabad, Madurai. We have opportunities for wealth managers in Delhi and Chandigarh. We also have opportunities for sales operations managers, and these are uh, some of the smaller towns in North. So we've got opportunities for operations managers in Hisar, Sirsa, Grouper, Hoshiarpur, and Moga. In addition to that, we're looking for service delivery officers in Bhiwandi, Amritsar, Ludhiana. Uh, the other roles that I can talk about is priority banking space, where we're looking for Bahadurgarh, Rohtak, Amritsar, and Hoshiarpur. We also have opportunities in the relationship management space, where there are open active roles right now in cities of Karnal, Yamunanagar, Amritsar, Bhatinda, Jalandhar. Uh, the last 2 roles that we are also working on is of that of an elite relationship manager, which is your customers with high net value. There we have opportunities in Bhiwandi, in Chandigarh, in Sirsa, Amritsar, Bhatinda, and Jalandhar. Last but not the least, we are also looking for a business development manager in cities of Karnal and Amritsar. So one thing that I should also tell you is that most of the roles that I spoke to you about are roles that just came to us this morning. And I'm glad that they came to us this morning so that we could talk to each one of you. This will also be hosted on our platform by the end of the day today. So please ensure that from time to time, all of you log into our platform, go to the jobs page and look out for opportunities that align to your skills. If in case you come across an opportunity, go through the JD, put in your resume, and our team will definitely reach out to you and see if it works in your favor. Having said that, as I said, the roles are very, very, the roles keep changing from time to time. And if in case you do not come across a particular opportunity that you think you are suitable to, please ensure that you drop your resume. So if in case in future, if we come across any role that is commensurate to the skills and aspects that you bring in, we'll be very, very happy to kind of work with you. Additionally, while I did speak about in the beginning of the session on joining our communities, on following us on LinkedIn, we also have several WhatsApp groups. And the fact that I saw a lot of questions coming in the space of returnity, we have a returning women group which comprises of about 1,200 women who are looking at returning. They could be in IT, they could be in banking space, they could be in marketing, HR, wherever. Please join that group. And Farisha, I don't know if you can just post that link to the Telegram group all of you can join that group. And as I said, we have been working with a lot of organizations trying to finalize some programs that we will soon start hosting, which will be in the space of women who are looking to return to work. Majority of them will be in bank space. So with that, I will pass it back to Nipa. Nipa, if you want to, okay, so Farisha has already put the Telegram group link on the chat. You might want to look at that and ensure that you join in so that we keep you posted on all the opportunities that keep coming up. So over to you, Nipa, for taking some of the questions.
Yeah, sure. So one of the question and actually my favorite one is I have a career in technology. Can I get into a banking career? Yes, definitely. For me, when I was doing, I actually went and did a MBA, but that is not always a necessity. And I've seen a lot of people within technology moving into banks. Just you have to know have the relevant skill set and some basic banking knowledge. If you haven't worked in a bank, get some basic knowledges of how banks function. Specifically see which part of the bank the requirement is for. So definitely have some knowledge of how that function actually performs. If it's in a customer in a retail bank, that would be very different from a corporate bank. So that basic understanding is required, and that should be available in any of the standard training materials that you'd find. And then obviously it would be the key technology requirement that the bank would have, and if you have those skill set, that would be a good fit. The next question, I see 2-3 questions that you've been in banks, either in HDFC or Axis or SCB, but then you took a career break. Somebody is saying that you're nearing 40, so can I still come back? My answer would be yes, because I've seen that, but I would actually let Naveeta also speak about this from her experience of make people who have been in banks before but took a break and wanted to come back. What is the best way to make it possible?
Sure, Nipa, thanks. So, look, this is a personal experience. After my 10 years with Exim, I did take a 5-year break due to maternity. And I mean, I'm talking about maybe the late 1990s. So things were not that easy at that point in time to get back into a career after 5 years. Things have changed. Let me say that very clearly, that things have changed, organizations have changed. Today, every organization is focusing on bringing women back to work if they have already been part, especially if they have been part of the banking sector and even outside the banking sector. So if you're interested, if you have your support systems at home today and you feel that you're ready to return back to a banking career, please do put in your, irrespective, I think age is immaterial, whether you're 40 or whether you're 35 or whatever. Put in your applications, go through the bank's websites, look for suitable roles, put in your applications. If banks find value in you, they will invest in you. Let me say that very clearly. So do not worry about your age, do not worry about anything. Start applying. It'll be a bit of a challenge. It may take a little time to materialize. But all banks are today encouraging women to come back.
And we heard that from Bhavesh that we are in advanced conversations with a few banks who specifically have their programs catered to women returnees. So definitely the scope is out there, and if you have the mindset and the will, obviously there is no dearth of opportunities. Bhavesh, you wanted to take some of.
Yeah, Deepa. In fact, before I take on some of the other questions, I mean, I have an interesting question which I saw from Tejashwini, which I think I'd like Naveeta and Nipa, you to chime in and answer that to her and to others. So she's asking, why is fintech given more importance than regular conventional banking?
So I don't think it's given more importance. I think it's more a buzzword, if you ask me. I think the conventional banking doesn't go away because the kind of functions and the support that a conventional bank provides to the customers, the fintechs are still babies in the woods. So they're kind of finding their way around. But believe me, they're giving great competition to the banks and they're giving them a run for their money. And that is what is changing. Today banks are investing in technology. They were very slow. Believe me, banking sector has been among the slowest in terms of investing in technology. And over past 10 years, things have changed and the banks are making heavy investments in technologies. And today they have realized the threat that comes from fintechs.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that yeah, fintech started as a challenge. So we always thought, when we have the first, Paytm came up, that some of the businesses are going from the conventional bank, but now banks have become very smart. They're going and either partnering with fintechs or they're buying up the fintechs. So banks have realized that they cannot do without some of the smart technology. So they are like out there.
Thanks, Naveeta, and thanks, Nipa. I mean, I just add, I mean, bringing the humor side to it. I think, as you said, they are babies, and babies run much faster. The fact that they are crying, making a lot of noise in the industry is why you get to see that fintech is making more buzz. But I mean, eventually, if you go to the career pages of a lot of traditional banks as well, you will get to see the opportunities exists everywhere. It's just that the fintech is more tuned towards the startup culture. So they do more branding, they do more advertisements. You get to see them more often than the conventional banks. And that's the only difference.
And they're more in the news.
Yes, for right or the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons.
Yeah. The other part of the question that Tejaswini is asking, and I'd like you guys to chime in also, is that could you suggest any training courses for women who've taken a career break and now want to get into it? So while Aspire for Her, and I'm sure Nipa is driving this very, very closely with us in this community, there are lots of training sessions that will keep happening. But outside of Aspire for Her, could you suggest some of the courses that they should do to kind of make a entry to the workforce?
So there's this institution called Indian Institute of Banking and Finance, which is sponsored by the banking and finance industry. And they run a lot of flagship courses, certifications, and diplomas. All the information is available on their website. And their accreditation has a lot of value in the banking industry. So if that's something that helps, that's something you could explore. The other thing is, if you want to get into a hardcore finance, risk management, that kind of function, I would recommend that you pick up certifications like the CFA or the FRM, because these will just straight away get you. Okay, they take time. They like a CFA is a 3-year program, FRM is a 2-year program, but they get you right up there in terms of skill sets.
Yeah, and just to add on the technology side, also, if you're into, if you want to get into information security, some of those getting the CISSP or CII, some of those information security specific diplomas, which actually don't take too long. You might be able to do that in 6 months. So those are also very hot. So it's always good to get some of those because those are also sure entries into the bank. So
Lovely.
obviously, there's lots of information on the internet. Trust me. I mean, it is overloaded of free information. Not all of them true, but many are authentic, specifically on the bank websites.
Lovely. There's this other question which talks about are restarters given opportunities through returnship programs with training before deployment? So I'll maybe take that. So Geeta, as I said, I mean, we worked with several banks in our recent past, and I won't even have to go back more than 6 months. We've been working with HSBC. We did a returnship program with Morgan Stanley. We had one more with a couple of other banks that we are discussing with. So a lot of things are happening, and in all those discussions, we make it very clear that somebody who's taken a career break obviously will be a little raw. So the training has to be provided. And thanks to all these forward-looking organizations, they also understand the same. So you don't need to really worry about the fact that since you've taken a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, 12-year break, that they are looking at you at par with another candidate who perhaps, let's say, has never taken a break. So you'll be interviewed with the understanding that you are raw at some point in time. There will be ample amount of training opportunities given to you and then deployed to a final project. So all the required training programs will be taken care of. Having said that, I think it's also important to be proactive in our own minds. And we did hear from Naveeta and Nipa talking about some of the programs, some of the courses that we should be proactively taking that makes your resume stand out from the rest, right? And it could be in the technical space, it could also be in the communication space. So it's also important to ensure that you participate in more and more webinars, forums, and try to add more and more flavor to your overall resume. Then I'm looking at some more questions. For a branch manager, is there an experience mandatory? The answer is unfortunately yes, because it's a very critical role. A branch manager has to manage almost everybody that's there in the branch office. So yes, I mean, if you're looking at that role, experience is a must. Ruby has asked a question specifically to me, stating that I have mentioned all the sales roles, any back office roles. So unfortunately, Ruby, in all the 30 roles that I spoke about, there are no back office roles at this point in time. But as I said, keep glued to our job portal. There are a lot of discussions that we're having, and I'm sure there are many more back office roles also that will be published on the portal. Plus, Farish has also given you the Telegram group links. So please join on those groups and we'll keep you posted. Okay, Ruby is again asking, one consultant called me and said, your resume is so impressive. But when she saw my break of 6 years, she immediately told company wouldn't accept. So Ruby, such things are part and parcel, right? We need to understand that sometimes there will be hiccups. And I think Naveeta and Nipa would agree when I say that it's not going to be a simple journey, right? The journey is going to be difficult. The journey is going to be a lot of times you might hear no from a lot of consultants, no from a lot of organizations. But I think if we are adhering to what is required, I am sure, as I said, I mean, right now, I mean, I have spent 20 years in the industry. I worked with the likes of GE, IBM, Capgemini, Wipro, CGI, a lot of large organizations. I've also had a stint with Jana Bank, by the way. I saw Jana maturing from 3,500 to 19,000 in 3 years, and I was largely responsible for that. So a lot of the organizations, and I was talking about 20 years because in the last 20 years, I did not see so much happening in this space. In the last 2 years, however, I think a lot of CEOs and CXOs have realized the importance of bringing diversity. That in diversity, not just mean in terms of gender, but in terms of all the other aspects of how can you add women who are returning to work, because I mean, all of us have different ways of thinking. And we are in a space right now where almost every organization, every leader is aware of bringing the diversity in. So you just need to ensure that you do your bit, you take care of your learning, keep up a resume, and one or two consultants calling and saying no should not dishearten you, Ruby. Return to work Telegram is not working. So that's for you, Parisha, the group. I think Kirtana is saying the link is not working. We'll share the link any which ways. I think we're good with questions. Unless anybody else has a question, I think we are.
Have to do the poll.
Okay, you have to do the poll. All right. Yeah, we've got 2 questions on the poll. So please ensure that you take this poll.
Yes, so that we know how to curate our future sessions for you. I think, do we have enough answers?
Perfect. Yeah, I think we can close the poll. Okay, lovely. So, I mean, I see a lot of you have mentioned that you are pretty excited. In fact, it says supremely excited to start a career in banking. And I'm sure the last 45 to 50 minutes was was helpful for you. So please ensure that you stay in touch, join those groups, follow us on LinkedIn to get to know more about the courses that we have on offer, and most importantly, the job opportunities that we come up with. So thank you so much for taking time out, and I'd like to again thank Naveeta as well as Nipa. We have a lot of people in Aspire for Her who's been working in the background. So thank you, Farisha, Suganya, and all the others who are responsible for making this session happen. Wish you a great weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.